Hey, welcome back to How to Barbecue Right. We're continuing our smoker series today, and we're going to be talking about the Backwoods Smokers. I'm over at my good buddy Mark's house, and he just happens to be the Backwoods man. So I'm going to have Mark tell you a little bit about the Backwoods when we talk about these cookers. I've been cooking on Backwoods for a long time, but man, I'm telling you, as far as a vertical water smoker goes, I don't know if they make one any better. Let's talk a little bit about the Backwoods and about how it works, Mark.
Backwoods really is the innovator, if you will. They held a patent for 17 years on a vertical reverse flow smoker. Now, if you're not sure what reverse flow means, that means typically that the smoke and the heat makes a revolution, and it sort of exits near where it enters. A lot of time, direct flow smokers, the air sort of just goes straight through and out. Reverse flow smokers make a turn before everything goes out. So the Backwoods, the way it starts out, the firebox is in the very bottom. And this firebox is completely separated from the cooking chamber by a permanent water pan. So you've got your charcoal, your wood down here, and everything heats the water pan directly from the bottom. So it gives you a 212-degree base of water. That water adds a little bit of moisture to the cooking chamber, and it adds a little bit of difference in the cooking temperature from top to bottom because it regulates the air temperature. So what happens is the heat and smoke travels around the water pan into this, which is a double wall. This is insulation on the outside, and then a double wall carries the heat and smoke up to the very top and enters the cooking chamber through a small gap about 1 inch at the very top. Now, it gives you radiant heat from the sides, radiant heat from the back, because the back and the sides are both double wall. Everything enters the cook chamber at the top, but it's drawn to the bottom through this full height chimney. This chimney runs the full height of the cooking chamber, so it actually pulls everything to the bottom.
See if you can take out those racks, and we'll show you those. You can see the holes right there that bottom rack was. And that's where the bottom of the chimney is. So the smoke comes from the top, like Mark was saying, and has to go down through every rack around every piece of meat to get back out. And that's what this little flap does. It controls that suction, that pressure on it that's drawing it. And once you get it rolling, man, it just sits there, doesn't it?
The nature of the thermodynamics and how this thing works is that the hotter the fire gets, the more air it draws. So as your meat gets hotter and your fire gets hotter, you're able to adjust the amount of draw that this chimney actually how much air it sucks in. The way it sucks air in is these little dampers on the side.
There's one on each side, yeah.
There's a little slide damper on each side that allows air to be drawn into the firebox. And then once it goes up and around through the walls and back to the bottom near the water pan, then it exits the chimney at the very top. So the nature of being a water smoker, very few of them are reverse flow, first of all. So don't be fooled by imitators. There are a lot of guys that they've knocked off the Backwoods, if you will, or cloned it. But what they didn't clone was that reverse flow. The nature of the thing this is, you've got 212 degrees at the bottom. The further away you get from the water, the hotter the potential air temperature is going to be. So the hotter it is on your thermometer, the greater the difference is from top to bottom.
So you do have a little zone cooking in one of these because all of your heat's coming in from that top. That's where your hot smoke's coming in. So anything you have up here is going to be cooking hotter than down closer to the water.
And naturally those things are going to color up a little faster at top because they're getting more of that dry, direct heat and smoke from the very top. And naturally the ones below that are sort of being basted from the drippings of the meat above it. So it requires a little bit of rotation just for evenness in temperature and color as well.
So we've talked a little bit about how these Backwoods or vertical water cookers perform, how you run your fire in them. Let's talk about some of the pros of them. I mean, some of the first thing is the design. I mean, you can see this cooker is real small footprint. I mean, these racks, what are the size of these racks, Mark?
They're 15.5 wide and 16.5 deep.
So we've got pretty much 135 square inches of cooking on each rack, but you see how many different shelves they have in here. You can get a ton of meat on one of these Backwoods Parties, and this is one of the smaller units that they actually make. And then ribs, how much have you loaded it down with before, Mark?
I've put as many as 18 slabs of loin back ribs on this at one time. Now typically they'll take a little longer. The more meat you add to it, the longer your cook time, and the more times you have to rotate your racks.
So you're cooking ribs on it. You can get 6 to 8 butts on one. Whole turkeys, whole briskets. They're all Backwoods going to handle it all.
This one's actually kind of cool. Kind of come up with a system we call butt racks, if you will. The guys that they bought this cooker not to cook ribs, but primarily to cook Boston butts. So you need a little bit more space between racks. So what they did is they made this to where you can put extra racks of Boston butts in there. And there we go. So you can actually cook on 4 racks of Boston butts rather than on 3. So you can put 2 butts per rack and you put 8 butts on this thing.
That's I mean, 8 butts is a lot of butts to get on the smoker this size. Now, another one of the pros of a Backwoods, being that it's a water cooker, it's going to hold constant temps.
Yep.
And this cooker will dial in. They love to cook at 250 degrees. That's just where this cooker wants to go. When you light some charcoal in it, you get your fire going, you get the vents adjusted and the top draw adjusted. It wants to go to 250 and sit there without much attention.
It really
and
does.
You're going to get a long burn time. And you can load the charcoal basket up. It slow burns across it. You're looking at almost 8 hours of charcoal on one load. I mean,
Yeah. Based on the type of charcoal that you're using, you set this up where your lit charcoal, when you light it, push off your lit charcoal to the back, if you will, fill it completely up, and it sort of lights like a fuse from the back to the front. It gives you a really good, long, consistent burn. Insulation on the outside helps control against the elements like wind and rain and things like that. But one of the best things about this, the first thing you mentioned, was the size. It's portable.
Yes.
2 guys can pick this thing up by its handles, and you can
We're
pick
going
this thing
to
up.
put this in the truck.
You can
The Party's a real portable model. I really like that.
size, portability for the money. This smoker is the perfect competition smoker.
Now, some of the cons of them that you may want to talk about is the price.
Yep.
The Backwoods, it's a premium smoker. They're all built in the United States, so the price of them is a little more expensive.
Yeah, they're like, say, $15.70 is a base price before you put any options.
So that was going to be my next con,
Yep.
having to add water to a smoker. If you're cooking on a water smoker, the only thing you can do wrong is let that water pan run dry. And believe me, you will know when it runs dry because your temperature gauge is going to spike.
It call them idiot proof until it runs out of water.
Yeah.
And then when it runs out of water, everything goes kaput. So best thing to do is keep a pitcher of water on top of this thing and just add a little bit until you get toward the end of the cooking process. You don't want a big pan of greasy water to deal with at the end. You want just a little bit that you can pick up and pour out and deal with manageably,
And if I had to pick one other con, it was that you are cooking in a moist environment, so you're not going to get that hard bark. If you like hard bark on your barbecue, when you're cooking in a water cooker, that it's kind of softer. It takes a little bit more time to get that bark to set on you, but it's basically has some steam in there. It has that humidity in there, and that's what's keeping it from drying out. So you don't have to baste it as often.
Now, in the competition world, all that rings really true. And what's great about this for home use, competition, you pretty much have to wrap your food. It has to have a certain color. It's got to have a certain texture, so you almost have to wrap it. Cooking at home on these, you don't even have to wrap it. And when you don't wrap at home, you do get a really good bark when you cook unwrapped the whole time. Problem is, it takes a lot longer to cook when you don't wrap.
I know those Memphis style ribs that I do, man, they come out perfect in this cooker without ever wrapping one. It makes the perfect rib because you're not going to dry anything out on a water cooker. And the last con we can think of, Mark, it's about the coating and the inside. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that this thing's made out of sort of light metal. It's a sheet metal cooker, essentially. Now, the outside skin is is made out of 1 gauge. Just say it's 26 gauge. But the great part is it's galvanneal, which means it's corrosion resistant and it's powder coated. So that outside skin is tough. It's tough. It's a really good baked on finish. But the inside of it's carbon steel. And because it's carbon steel, it will rust. So it requires a couple of different things to maintain its life. One, you keep it dry. That's one of the main things. This thing needs to stay dry. It needs to stay covered. It needs to have a cover over it. When you're finished cooking on it, get the water out of it. The next thing is to get the ash out of it. One of the worst enemies of any carbon steel type smoker is ash. Ash is corrosive. And if you leave ash in the bottom of the cooker, it will start to rust. It also attracts moisture. One of the first things to go bad on these cookers is the bottom of it rusts out because people don't get the ash out of them. If you do that, this cooker will last you from now on. You may have to replace a firebox or a few grates.
Or seal.
Or a thermometer or something like that. But this cooker will last you. It just requires a little care in knowing that it will go to seed on you if you set it out in the rain.
So we talked about how the Backwoods works. We talked about some pros and some cons of it. Mark, tell them about the different models and price ranges of Backwoods a little bit.
There's one out there for about everyone. Not everyone wants a $1,000 smoker. Now, that's about where they start out, about, just say, round numbers of $1,000. The Backwoods Chubby. And it's essentially this smoker cut down. It has 4 racks in it instead of 6. They're a little bit closer together. There again, it's very portable. Pick it up, throw it in the back of the truck. It's roughly $1,000.
So it's like a family size.
Yeah, take it to the lake, take it hunting camp, tailgating, wherever. The Party, sort of the next size up, it's still portable. It's got 6 racks. You know, this guy weighs 150, 160 pounds, something like that. $1,500 in round numbers. The next size up from those is sort of just a generation jump, really. This is what we call a Gen 1. Generation 2, Backwoods.
G2, that's where G2s come in.
That's where G2 comes from. The G2 makes, Backwoods makes a G2 line, and they make it in the Chubby and the Party just like the Gen 1. The G2s jump up in price a little bit. G2 Chubby is $1,350. G2 Party is around $2,650.
Yeah.
So they
getting up there.
They
It's
jump
getting
on
there.
up. And then when you leave the Party, you go into the Fat Boy and up, and you sort of change platforms when you go to the Fat Boy.
Those are all in that $3,000 to $6,000 range.
You go up to $2,000. You still stay in the $2,000 range on the Fat Boy, but you get things like stainless doors.
Yeah,
you get
I've seen them with
commercial
stainless.
fireboxes, 2-inch insulation, all standards. And then when you go to the G2 Fat Boy, you just add the extra depth essentially. Then when you go to the Competitor, the Fat Boy and the Competitor are just like the Party and the Chubby.
And they're even making whole hogs.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got, Backwoods has the whole hog model, so they've got one. They've got a model for you if you're looking at a vertical water smoker. So that pretty much covers everything you need to know about a Backwoods vertical water pan smoker. I know if you have any questions on this type of pit in particular, Mark is the guru when it comes to knowing stuff about Backwoods.
Certainly. I'm the nation's largest Backwoods distributor. I've been selling them since 2003. We've both been using them for in excess of 10 years. You know, they've won multiple world championships, but for not only competition, they're great for folks just to use it in the backyard, on the back patio, where they want the same quality, not only in workmanship, but the quality of the end product as well.
That's right, and these Backwoods smokers are built really great, and that's, you know, when you're looking for a smoker, if it's in your budget, check these out. So hey, appreciate you checking out the video today on our smoker series. We talked about the Backwoods. We're going to put a bunch more of these videos out showing different types of smokers, because we want everybody to be educated and make a good buying decision, because we know you're spending a lot of money when you're buying a smoker. If you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel and check us out on Facebook and Twitter. You can find Mark at mark@ssomd.com if you want to email him. Also check out his website, ssomd.com. He's got a lot of cool stuff on there as well. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.